Prince Vextar stood before the massive holographic display in the war room of the Zephyrian flagship. The blue light from the star charts reflected off his scaled skin as he studied the latest reports from the Outer Rim territories. His younger brother, Prince Killmoth, paced behind him with barely contained excitement. "Look at this pathetic expansion," Vextar said, pointing to a cluster of red dots on the map. "These humans have claimed 12 systems in just 50 cycles. They build their colonies like insects, spreading without any real strength." Killmoth leaned forward, his amber eyes gleaming. "The intelligence reports say they have no proper military tradition, no warrior culture. They send messages about trade agreements and peaceful contact." He laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "What kind of species talks about peace when they meet superior beings?" General Thakron, the eldest military advisor in the room, cleared his throat carefully. "Your Highnesses, perhaps we should gather more information before we act. These humans destroyed 3 Korthak raiding parties last month. The survivors spoke of unusual tactics and unexpected resistance." Vextar turned to face the general, his expression showing clear annoyance. "The Korthak are scavengers and pirates, old man. They attack merchant ships and run when they face real military power. Of course they would lose to any organized defense." The prince walked over to a smaller display showing detailed information about human technology. The reports described basic fusion drives, simple energy weapons, and standard defensive shields, nothing that looked dangerous to the Zephyrian Empire, which had conquered 47 star systems and defeated dozens of alien civilizations. "Besides," Killmoth added, "look at their numbers. The largest human fleet we have detected contains only 30 ships. 30? We have more ships in a single patrol squadron." Vextar nodded in agreement. The Zephyrian Empire controlled over 300 capital ships and thousands of smaller vessels. Their technology came from centuries of warfare and conquest. Their warriors trained from birth to fight and die for the Empire. These humans seem to spend most of their time on scientific research and building civilian settlements. The reports also mention something strange, General Thakron continued, his voice careful and measured. "The humans do not seem to have a traditional command structure. Their military units operate with unusual independence. When the Korthak attacked the human colony on Kepler-7, the response came not from a central fleet, but from individual ships that coordinated without any visible command authority." Prince Vextar waved his hand dismissively. "Chaos and confusion. That proves they have no proper military discipline. When we attack, they will panic and scatter like frightened animals." The war room fell silent as the princes considered their options. Through the massive viewport, the stars of the Outer Rim territory sparkled in the distance. Somewhere out there, human colonies continued their quiet expansion, unaware that they had attracted the attention of one of the galaxy's most feared military powers. Killmoth moved to stand beside his brother. "We could send a demonstration fleet. Not a full invasion force, just enough ships to crush one of their colonies and show them the price of expanding into our territory." "An excellent idea," Vextar replied. "We choose a target that will send a clear message. Something visible that other species will notice. When word spreads that the Zephyrian Empire destroyed a human colony without effort, it will remind everyone in this galaxy who the real power is." General Thakron stepped forward cautiously. "Your Highnesses, the High Command suggests a more gradual approach. Perhaps we could start with diplomatic demands or economic pressure. The humans might withdraw peacefully if they understand the situation." Both princes turned to stare at the general with expressions of complete disbelief. Vextar's scaled features showed clear offense at the suggestion. "Diplomatic demands?" Vextar's voice rose with anger. "We are warriors, not merchants. The Zephyrian Empire does not ask permission to reclaim its territory. We take what belongs to us and destroy anyone who stands in our way. The old ways have served us well," Killmoth agreed. "Fear and strength. When other species see what happens to those who oppose us, they submit without a fight. It saves time and resources." The general bowed his head respectfully. "Of course, Your Highnesses. I simply wanted to present all options for your consideration." Vextar walked back to the main display and began studying the human settlements more carefully. "We need a target that will be visible but not too defended. Something that shows our power without requiring a long campaign. What about this one?" Killmoth pointed to a system labeled New Perth. "It is a newer colony with a small population. The intelligence reports show minimal defensive installations and no major fleet presence." "Perfect," Vextar said with satisfaction. We will take 200 ships and 50,000 warriors. Enough to overwhelm any resistance completely, but not so many that it looks like we consider these humans a real threat. General Thakron looked at the display with growing concern. 200 ships seems like a very large force for a single colony, Your Highnesses. Perhaps 50 ships would be sufficient for a demonstration. Vextar laughed, the sound echoing through the war room. Better to use too much force than too little, General. We want to crush this colony so completely that no human will ever consider resisting us again. When they see what our military power can do, they will abandon their expansion and retreat to their home system. And if they do not retreat? The general asked quietly. Then we will destroy them all. Killmoth answered with a cold smile. Species that cannot recognize superior power do not deserve to survive. It is a basic law of the galaxy. The princes spent the next several hours planning their attack. They would arrive at New Perth with overwhelming force and demand immediate surrender. If the humans refused, they would demonstrate Zephyrian military superiority by destroying the colony's defenses in a matter of minutes. The survivors would carry word of the Empire's power back to human space. As the planning session continued, General Thakron found himself thinking about the strange reports from the Korthak raids. The human defensive tactics had been unlike anything in the military databases. Their ships had moved in patterns that seemed random, but proved to be highly effective. Their weapons had performed far better than the technical specifications suggested they should, but the general kept his concerns to himself. The princes had made their decision, and questioning the wisdom of royal commands was dangerous for everyone involved. Besides, 200 Zephyrian warships represented enough firepower to level an entire planet. No single colony could stand against such overwhelming force. The attack on New Perth would begin in 7 days. 7 days later, the Zephyrian armada dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the New Perth system. 200 warships arranged themselves in perfect battle formation, their hulls gleaming with the dark metal that had struck fear into countless civilizations across the galaxy. Prince Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical displays with satisfaction. The human colony appeared exactly as the intelligence reports had described. A single inhabited planet with basic orbital stations and a few mining facilities on nearby asteroids. No defensive fleet in sight. Begin the standard approach, Vextar commanded. Full battle formation. I want these humans to see exactly what they are facing. The massive fleet moved forward slowly, allowing the humans time to detect their presence and understand the hopelessness of their situation. This was psychological warfare at its finest. The sight of 200 alien warships would terrify any reasonable species into immediate surrender. Your Highness, the communications officer reported, we are receiving a transmission from the planet. Put it on the main screen, Vextar ordered. He expected to see a human leader, probably terrified and ready to negotiate for the lives of his people. Instead, the screen showed a young human female in a simple military uniform. She appeared to be sitting in what looked like a small spacecraft, not a command center or government building. Behind her, Prince Vextar could see several other humans working at various stations. This is Lieutenant Sarah Chen of the Earth Colonial Defense Force, the human said in a calm, professional voice. You have entered the New Perth system without permission or invitation. Please identify yourselves and state your business here. Prince Killmoth, who had been watching from his own command station, burst into laughter. Did she just demand that we identify ourselves? Does this creature not understand what she is looking at? Vextar found himself momentarily speechless. He had expected fear, panic, or desperate pleas for mercy. Instead, this human was speaking to him as if she had the authority to question his presence. Human, Vextar said, his voice carrying the authority of countless military victories. I am Prince Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire. You are looking at 200 warships and 50,000 of the finest warriors in the galaxy. Surrender immediately, and we may allow some of your people to live. Lieutenant Chen looked at something off-screen for a moment, apparently checking some kind of display. When she turned back to face the camera, her expression remained completely unchanged. Prince Vextar, I appreciate you identifying yourself. However, you have not followed proper diplomatic protocols for entering this system. New Perth is a sovereign human colony operating under Earth colonial authority. If you wish to establish formal contact, you will need to work through proper diplomatic channels. The bridge of the Zephyrian flagship fell completely silent. Every officer and warrior stared at the screen in total disbelief. This single human was calmly explaining diplomatic procedures to one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. Diplomatic channels? Prince Killamoth's voice cracked with incredulous laughter. Brother, I think this human may be mentally defective. Perhaps their species does not understand the concept of military superiority. Vextar felt his anger rising. In his entire life, no one had ever dismissed his authority so casually. Lesser species either surrendered immediately or at least showed proper fear when faced with Zephyrian military might. Human, you clearly do not understand your situation, Vextar said, his voice becoming dangerous. We are not here for diplomacy. We are here to demonstrate the price of expanding into territory claimed by the Zephyrian Empire. Surrender now, or we will destroy your colony. Lieutenant Chen appeared to be listening to something through an earpiece. She nodded once and then looked back at the camera. Prince Vextar, I have consulted with my unit regarding your demand. We are not authorized to surrender this colony or negotiate territorial agreements. Such matters would need to be handled by civilian authorities through proper legal channels. In the meantime, your fleet is in violation of colonial space. Please withdraw to a distance of at least 10 million kilometers while diplomatic contact is established. Prince Vextar stared at the screen in complete amazement. This human was not only refusing to surrender, she was ordering him to withdraw his fleet. The sheer audacity was beyond anything he had ever encountered. Your unit? Vextar asked, his voice becoming very quiet and dangerous. How many ships do you command, Lieutenant Chen? I command Scout Unit 7, Chen replied matter-of-factly. 12 personnel operating from a single reconnaissance vessel. We are currently conducting routine patrol exercises in this system. The bridge erupted in shocked murmurs. 12 humans, a single small ship, and their leader was calmly ordering a fleet of 200 warships to withdraw. General Thakron, who had been monitoring the conversation from the tactical station, approached the prince's command chair. Your Highness, perhaps we should consider that this human may be stalling for time while a larger fleet approaches. Vextar gestured to the sensor operator. Report. Are there any other human ships in this system? No, Your Highness. Long-range sensors show only the single small craft that is transmitting to us. No other vessels within 12 hours of travel time. Prince Killamoth laughed again, but the sound was becoming strained. 12 humans in a single small ship are ordering us to withdraw. Brother, we have to destroy them, not for military necessity, but to preserve our dignity. Vextar found himself in a situation unlike anything in his military experience. Destroying 12 humans would hardly count as a glorious victory, but allowing them to defy the Zephyrian Empire was completely unacceptable. Lieutenant Chen, Vextar said, his voice now carrying deadly certainty. You have one final opportunity to surrender. If you refuse, we will consider your unit as representing active resistance to the Zephyrian Empire. Lieutenant Chen appeared to be consulting with her team again. After a moment, she turned back to the camera with the same calm expression. Prince Vextar, I understand you believe you are in a position of strength. However, you should know that Scout Unit 7 is trained and equipped for contact with unknown hostile forces. We will defend this colony and its people to the best of our ability. Defend? Prince Killamoth's voice rose to nearly a shriek. 12 humans are going to defend an entire colony against 200 warships? If necessary, Lieutenant Chen replied simply. Vextar looked around his bridge at the shocked faces of his officers and crew. In all the military histories of the Zephyrian Empire, no enemy had ever responded to overwhelming force with such complete composure. Very well, Vextar said finally. You have chosen your fate. All ships, prepare for attack. Destroy the human vessel and begin orbital bombardment of the colony. Understood, Your Highness, came the response from Fleet Command. Lieutenant Chen appeared to receive some kind of signal through her earpiece. She nodded once and then looked directly at Prince Vextar. Prince Vextar, you should know that Earth Colonial Command will be informed of this unprovoked attack. Your actions here will have consequences. The only consequence, Vextar replied coldly, will be the complete destruction of your species' expansion into our territory. Lieutenant Chen reached forward and the transmission ended. Prince Vextar turned to his weapons officer. Begin the attack. Show these humans what happens when they defy the Zephyrian Empire. As the first weapons charged and the fleet moved into attack position, none of the Zephyrian commanders imagined that they were about to face the most devastating military defeat in their empire's history. They saw only 12 humans in a small ship, impossibly defiant but ultimately helpless. They were about to discover how wrong they were. The attack began exactly as Prince Vextar expected. His flagship opened fire with its main plasma cannons, sending streams of superheated energy toward the tiny human scout ship. The other vessels in the fleet followed, creating a devastating barrage that should have vaporized the target instantly. The energy beams struck empty space. What happened? Vextar demanded, staring at the tactical display. Where did they go? Unknown, Your Highness, the sensor operator reported, his voice confused. The human ship appears to have moved. Our targeting systems show it was there when we fired, but the beams missed completely. Prince Killmoth leaned over his own display, trying to understand what had occurred. How fast are these humans? Our sensors should have tracked any movement. Sir, we are detecting the human vessel, another officer called out. Distance 12,000 kilometers, bearing 77 Mark IV. They appear to be moving at standard sublight speeds. Vextar studied the new position carefully. The human ship had not moved impossibly fast. Instead, it seemed to have predicted exactly where the Zephyrian weapons would fire and moved away just before the attack arrived. Fortunate guess, he decided. Target them again. This time use proximity charges so they cannot avoid the blast. The fleet weapons recharged and fired again. Once more, the human ship was not where the targeting computers expected it to be. The proximity charges detonated in empty space while the scout vessel continued its steady movement through the battle zone. Your Highness, the communications officer reported, we are receiving another transmission from the human vessel. Put it through, Vextar ordered, his confusion now mixed with growing anger. Lieutenant Chen appeared on screen again, still sitting calmly at her station. Behind her, the prince could see her crew working with the same professional efficiency as before. Prince Vextar, you have now fired on a Colonial Defense Force unit without provocation. This constitutes an act of war against Earth Colonial Authority. I am ordering you to cease hostilities immediately. You are ordering me? Vextar's voice rose with outrage. You have 12 people against 50,000 warriors. How dare you continue this madness? Prince Vextar, Lieutenant Chen replied with the same professional tone. You should understand that Scout Unit 7 is not a civilian vessel. We are a military reconnaissance unit, trained for contact with hostile forces. If you continue your attack, we will respond with appropriate force. Prince Killmoth could not contain his laughter. Appropriate force? What kind of weapons could 12 humans possibly carry that would threaten a battle fleet? Lieutenant Chen appeared to check something on her console. Prince Vextar, my tactical officer reports that your fleet is using standard plasma weaponry with predictable targeting algorithms. Our defensive systems have analyzed your firing patterns and can avoid your weapons indefinitely. Vextar felt a chill run through his body. Analyzed our firing patterns? In 2 attacks? Affirmative. Human military doctrine emphasizes adaptive tactical systems. We have also identified several vulnerabilities in your fleet formation and individual ship designs. General Thakran, who had been watching the exchange with growing alarm, stepped forward. Your Highness, perhaps we should consider withdrawing and reassessing the situation. Withdraw? Vextar turned on the general with fury. From 12 humans, never. All ships switched to rapid-fire pattern. Saturate the area with continuous fire. The Zephyrian fleet opened up with everything they had. Hundreds of plasma cannons, missile launchers, and particle beams filled space with destructive energy. No single ship could possibly avoid such a massive barrage. But the human scout ship did not try to avoid it. Instead, it moved directly toward the attacking fleet. Sir, the human vessel is approaching our position. The sensor operator reported with disbelief. They are moving through our weapons fire without taking any damage. On the main screen, Prince Vextar watched something impossible. The tiny human ship weaved between plasma beams, dodged missile explosions, and somehow found paths through the deadly barrage that should not have existed. How are they doing this? Killmoth demanded. Lieutenant Chen's voice came through the communication system again. Prince Vextar, we are now within effective range of our defensive systems. I strongly advise you to order your fleet to stand down. Defensive systems? Vextar laughed with desperation more than humor. What could you possibly do to harm ships this size? The answer came immediately. A thin beam of energy struck the Zephyrian flagship's forward shield array. The shields flickered and died instantly. Shield failure on forward array, the tactical officer shouted. How is that possible? That was barely a light weapons hit. Prince Vexitar, Lieutenant Chen's voice continued calmly. Human railgun technology operates on different principles than your plasma weaponry. Our kinetic projectiles are designed to overload shield generators through resonance cascade effects. Another beam struck a nearby Zephyrian cruiser. The ship's shields collapsed and its hull armor began to fail. Emergency alarms sounded throughout the fleet as captains reported shield failures across multiple vessels. All ships, evasive maneuvers, Vexitar commanded. How are they targeting so many ships at once? Sir, the human vessel appears to be using some kind of predictive targeting system, the sensor operator reported. They are hitting ships that have not even entered their direct line of sight. Prince Killmoth stared at his tactical display in growing horror. Brother, they are not just avoiding our weapons. They are predicting where every ship in the fleet will be and striking preemptively. The impossible battle continued for another hour. The human scout ship moved through the Zephyrian formation like a deadly spirit, striking critical systems with surgical precision while avoiding the increasingly frantic return fire. One by one, Zephyrian warships lost their shields, weapons, and propulsion systems. Your Highness, General Thakron reported, his voice filled with disbelief. We have lost 37 ships. The humans have suffered no detectable damage. Vexitar could not speak. Everything he understood about warfare, about military power, about the natural order of the galaxy was crumbling around him. 12 humans in a single small ship were systematically destroying the finest fleet the Zephyrian Empire had ever assembled. Sir, Prince Killmoth's ship is reporting critical damage, the communications officer announced. Their reactor is destabilizing. On the tactical display, Vexitar watched his brother's flagship drift helplessly as secondary explosions ripped through its hull. The prince managed to escape in a life pod just before the massive warship exploded in a brilliant flash of light. Rescue Prince Killmoth immediately, Vexitar ordered, his voice hollow. Lieutenant Chen's transmission came through again. Prince Vexitar, you have now lost significant portions of your fleet. I am offering you one final opportunity to withdraw your remaining ships from this system. Vexitar looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. He saw fear, confusion, and the beginning of something he had never seen before in Zephyrian warriors. Doubt. How? He asked quietly. How are 12 humans defeating an entire battle fleet? Prince Vexitar, Lieutenant Chen replied. Scout Unit 7 represents standard Earth Colonial Defense Force capabilities. We are not special forces or elite units. We are simply trained to operate independently and adapt to unknown threats. Standard capabilities, Vexitar repeated, the words cutting through him like ice. If it helps, Lieutenant Chen continued, you should know that this engagement will be reported as a successful first contact mission. No human personnel have been injured, and we have gathered valuable intelligence about your military capabilities. Prince Vexitar realized with growing horror that while his fleet was being destroyed, the humans considered this to be a routine patrol encounter. They were not even fighting with desperation or fury. They were simply doing their job. All ships, he commanded, his voice barely audible, begin immediate withdrawal from the system. As the surviving Zephyrian vessels turned to flee, Prince Vexitar tried to comprehend what had just happened. His brother's ship was gone. Most of his fleet was destroyed or crippled. And 12 humans and a small scout ship had done it all while treating the battle as a standard defensive operation. The most terrifying thought was just beginning to form in his mind. If this was what human scouts could do, what would happen when they faced the real human military? The retreat from New Perth became a nightmare that Prince Vexitar would never forget. What should have been a simple withdrawal turned into a running battle across 3 star systems as the human scout ship pursued the fleeing Zephyrian fleet with relentless efficiency. Status report, Vexitar demanded as his damaged flagship limped toward the edge of the system. Around him, the bridge crew worked frantically to repair critical systems while monitoring the positions of their surviving vessels. 63 ships remaining operational. Your Highness, General Thakron reported, his voice heavy with exhaustion. Prince Killmoth is aboard the rescue vessel and uninjured, but his ship was completely destroyed. Vexitar nodded grimly. They had lost nearly 70% of their fleet to a single human scout ship. The numbers seemed impossible, but the evidence floated in space behind them as twisted wreckage. Are we being pursued? He asked, though he already suspected the answer. Yes, Your Highness. The human vessel is maintaining a distance of approximately 50,000 kilometers behind our formation. They appear to be observing us. The prince studied the tactical display with growing unease. The human ship was not attacking, but it was definitely following them. Its movements were precise and confident, like a predator stalking wounded prey. Perhaps they are satisfied with driving us away, suggested the communications officer hopefully. General Thakron shook his head. I do not think so. Look at their positioning. They are staying exactly outside our maximum weapons range while maintaining perfect tracking of our course. This is intelligence gathering. As if to confirm the general's words, the human ship suddenly accelerated and moved to intercept a Zephyrian supply vessel that had fallen behind the main formation. The supply ship's captain, panicking at the approach of the deadly scout vessel, opened fire with his light defensive weapons. The human ship avoided the weapons fire effortlessly and responded with a single precise shot that disabled the supply vessel's engines. Then it moved alongside the helpless ship and attached some kind of device to its hull. What are they doing? Vekstar asked, watching the incomprehensible scene unfold. Unknown, Your Highness. They appear to be scanning our ship designs, or perhaps installing some kind of monitoring equipment. After several minutes, the human ship detached from the supply vessel and moved away. The supply ship's engines came back online and it rejoined the formation. But now every Zephyrian commander knew that the humans had somehow examined their technology at close range. Sir, we are receiving a transmission from Captain Veltar on the supply vessel, the communications officer reported. Put him through. Captain Veltar appeared on screen, his expression showing a mixture of fear and confusion. Your Highness, the humans did not board our ship or attempt to capture any crew members. They attached some kind of scanning device to our hull and appeared to analyze our reactor design, weapon systems, and engine configuration. Did they communicate with you? Yes, Your Highness. The human female sent a message saying that she was gathering technical data for defensive purposes. She thanked us for our cooperation and wished us a safe journey home. Prince Vekstar ended the transmission and sat in stunned silence. The humans had stopped their pursuit to scan a Zephyrian ship, and then politely thanked them for the opportunity. It was like being hunted by a creature that followed the rules of civilized behavior, while systematically destroying everything in its path. Over the next 6 hours, the pattern repeated itself 3 more times. The human scout ship would intercept a straggling Zephyrian vessel, disable it temporarily, conduct some kind of technical scan, and then allow it to rejoin the fleet. Each time, the human commander sent polite messages explaining that they were gathering defensive intelligence. Your Highness, General Thakron said quietly, I believe the humans are studying our technology to learn how to fight us more effectively. They are treating this entire encounter as a learning opportunity. The realization struck Vekstar like a physical blow. The humans were not just defeating his fleet. They were using the battle as training for future conflicts. Every ship they scanned, every weapon they avoided, every tactical pattern they observed was being analyzed and catalogued for use against other Zephyrian forces. Can we do anything to stop them? He asked desperately. No, Your Highness. Every time we have attempted to engage them, they have destroyed or disabled our ships without taking damage themselves. They appear to have complete tactical superiority. As the fleet entered the second star system, Prince Vekstar hoped the pursuit would end. Instead, the human ship followed them through the jump point and immediately moved to intercept their communications relay station. Sir, they are attacking the relay station. Attacking was not the right word. The human ship approached the unmanned station and disabled its defenses with surgical precision. Then it connected to the station's communication array and began transmitting something. What are they sending? Vekstar demanded. Unknown, Your Highness. The transmission is encrypted using algorithms we do not recognize. After 10 minutes, the human ship disconnected from the relay station and moved to rejoin its pursuit of the fleet. The station's automatic systems came back online, apparently undamaged except for its weapons. Prince Kilmoth, who had been transferred to his brother's ship, approached the command chair with a haunted expression. Brother, I think they just sent a message home. They told their people what happened at New Perth. The implications hit both princes simultaneously. Earth Colonial Command now knew that the Zephyrian Empire had attacked one of their colonies. More importantly, they knew that a single scout unit had defeated an entire Zephyrian battle fleet. How long before human reinforcements arrive? Vekstar asked General Thakron. If they respond immediately, assuming their ships are comparable to ours in speed. Perhaps 2 weeks to reach New Perth. But Your Highness, we do not know where their main fleet is based or how large their military forces might be. Vextar felt cold dread spreading through his chest. If 12 humans in a scout ship could destroy most of his fleet, what could a full human battle group accomplish? How many ships would Earth send to respond to an unprovoked attack on their colony? The pursuit continued through 2 more star systems. Each time they jumped, the human ship followed. Each time they tried to establish communications with Zephyrian Command, the humans intercepted their signals and seemed to be analyzing their military communication protocols. By the time they reached the 3rd system, Vextar's fleet had been reduced to 37 functional ships. The humans had not attacked during the pursuit, but several vessels had suffered critical system failures under the stress of constant flight. Others had been forced to shut down non-essential systems to avoid detection, only to discover that the human ship could track them regardless. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the human vessel," the communications officer announced. Prince Vextar considered refusing the communication, but he needed to understand what these creatures wanted from him. Lieutenant Chen appeared on the screen, looking as calm and professional as she had at the beginning of the encounter. "Prince Vextar, we have been monitoring your fleet's condition during this pursuit. Several of your vessels appear to be experiencing critical system failures. What do you want?" Vextar asked, his voice hollow with exhaustion. "We are prepared to discontinue our pursuit if you can provide assurance that you will not return to attack New Perth or any other human colony." Prince Vextar stared at the screen in amazement. After destroying most of his fleet and pursuing him across 3 star systems, the human was offering to let him go if he promised not to attack again. "You would trust my word?" he asked. "Prince Vextar, we have observed your command decisions throughout this encounter. You ordered the evacuation of crew members from disabled ships before they exploded. You maintained formation discipline to protect your weaker vessels during the retreat. These actions suggest that you value the lives of your people." Vextar found himself looking at this human commander with something approaching respect. She had studied not just his military tactics, but his character as a leader. "If I give this assurance, will you return to your patrol duties?" "Affirmative. Scout Unit 7 will return to New Perth to continue our routine exercises. However, Earth Colonial Command has been informed of this encounter. Future diplomatic contact should be conducted through proper channels." Prince Vextar looked around his bridge at the exhausted faces of his crew. They had learned more about human capabilities in the past 18 hours than they wanted to know. "You have my word. Lieutenant Chen, the Zephyrian Empire will not attack New Perth again. Thank you, Prince Vextar. We wish you a safe journey home." The transmission ended, and the human scout ship changed course. Heading back toward New Perth, Prince Vextar watched it disappear from his sensors and tried to comprehend everything that had happened. 12. Humans had defeated one of the largest military forces in Zephyrian history, and they had done it while following rules of engagement that protected civilian lives and respected military honor. What kind of species fought wars that way? And what would happen when that species decided to fight back? 3 weeks later, Prince Vextar stood before the assembled representatives of the Galactic Council in the Great Chamber on Nexus Prime. The vast hall contained delegates from over 200 alien civilizations, all waiting to hear his report about the first military contact with the humans. The prince's appearance told much of the story before he spoke a single word. His once pristine ceremonial armor was scorched and dented. His scaled features showed the exhaustion of someone who had not slept properly in weeks. Most telling of all, his eyes held a haunted quality that experienced military commanders recognized immediately. "Honored delegates," Vextar began, his voice carrying clearly through the silent chamber. "I stand before you to report on the Zephyrian Empire's encounter with the species known as humans." Council Speaker Morden, an ancient being whose species had overseen galactic politics for millennia, leaned forward with interest. "Prince Vextar, our preliminary reports indicated that you engaged a human colony with a substantial military force. What was the outcome of this engagement?" Vextar took a deep breath, knowing that his next words would change how every species in the galaxy viewed humanity. "Honored Speaker, we attacked the human colony of New Perth with a fleet of 200 warships and 50,000 warriors. We suffered catastrophic defeat." The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Several delegates stood to speak at once, but Speaker Morden raised his hand for silence. "Prince Vextar, please clarify your statement." Are you saying that the human colony had unexpected defensive capabilities? No, honored speaker. The colony had minimal defenses. We were defeated by a single human scout ship with 12 crew members. The silence that followed was absolute. Every delegate in the chamber stared at the Zephyrian prince with expressions of complete disbelief. Ambassador Kreshta of the Mordanian Federation was the first to recover her voice. Surely you misspoke, Prince Vextar. 12 individuals cannot defeat 200 warships. I wish that were true, Ambassador. But I witnessed it myself. The human scout unit destroyed or disabled 163 of our ships. They pursued our surviving vessels across 3 star systems, studying our technology and tactics. At any point during this pursuit, they could have destroyed our remaining forces completely. Prince Kilmoth, who had insisted on accompanying his brother to the council session, stepped forward. Honored delegates, I commanded one of the ships in our fleet. I watched the humans move through our weapons fire as if they could predict exactly where every shot would be. Their single small vessel defeated our entire formation while taking no damage themselves. General Thakron approached the speaker's platform, carrying a datapad containing detailed sensor records. I have brought complete tactical recordings of the engagement. Every weapon's impact, every maneuver, every communication is documented. Speaker Morden gestured for the data to be uploaded to the chamber's main display. As the battle recordings played, the assembled delegates watched in growing horror. They saw Zephyrian plasma cannons firing at empty space where human ships had been moments before. They saw precise human weapon strikes disabling massive alien warships with surgical accuracy. Most disturbing of all, they heard the calm, professional voice of Lieutenant Sarah Chen as she politely explained human defensive capabilities. This is impossible, declared High Admiral Zonkar of the Hegemony Fleet. No single ship can move with such precision. No weapon system can be that accurate. The recordings must be falsified. I wish they were, Prince Vextar replied quietly. But 3 other species have now reported similar encounters with human scout units. The Korthak pirates lost 4 raiding fleets to individual human ships. The Veltari Confederacy attempted to intercept a human transport convoy and discovered that their merchant vessels were more heavily armed than our battleships. Ambassador Silara from the Trade Federation accessed her own data files. We have received reports from our commercial scouts about human expansion in the Outer Rim. Their technology appears to be based on completely different principles than our own. Their ships use kinetic weapons that can overload our shield systems. Their defensive computers can analyze and counter our tactics in real time. Speaker Morden studied the tactical data with growing concern. Prince Vextar, what is your assessment of human military capabilities based on this encounter? Vextar looked around the chamber at the faces of representatives from the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. Honored Speaker, the humans we fought were not elite warriors or special forces. According to their own statements, they were a standard reconnaissance unit conducting routine patrol exercises. They treated our entire fleet as a training opportunity. Training? The word escaped from dozens of throats simultaneously. Yes. During the pursuit, they intercepted our communications, scanned our ship designs, and analyzed our tactical formations. They gathered intelligence about Zephyrian military capabilities, while demonstrating their own superiority. When I asked Lieutenant Chen how 12 people could defeat a battle fleet, she explained that this represented standard Earth Colonial Defense Force capabilities. Prince Kilmoth added his own observations. They offered to stop their pursuit if we promised not to attack their colonies again. After destroying most of our fleet, they were willing to let us go based on my brother's word of honor. What kind of military force shows mercy to enemies who attack them without provocation? The implications began to sink in throughout the chamber. If humans could show such restraint after achieving total victory, it suggested a level of military confidence that was truly terrifying. Have we received any communications from Earth or human authorities? Asked Ambassador Kreshta. General Thakron consulted his datapad. 3 days ago, we received a formal diplomatic message from Earth Colonial Command. They acknowledged the incident at New Perth and expressed interest in establishing proper diplomatic relations with galactic civilizations. They suggested a neutral meeting to discuss territorial boundaries and trade agreements. They want to negotiate? Speaker Morden's voice showed his surprise. According to their message, they consider the attack on New Perth to be the result of a misunderstanding about territorial claims. They are prepared to overlook the incident if we can establish clear agreements about colonial expansion zones. The chamber fell silent again as the delegates absorbed this information. The humans had the military power to devastate galactic civilization, but they wanted to negotiate peaceful solutions to territorial disputes. High Admiral Zonkar stood slowly, his expression grim. If their scout units can defeat our battle fleets, what happens when they send their actual military forces? How many ships can Earth field? Prince Vextar had been dreading this question. According to intelligence reports, Earth Colonial Command operates at least 300 active colonies across 50 star systems. Each colony appears to have its own defensive forces. If Scout Unit 7 represents standard capabilities, then he could not finish the sentence. The mathematical implications were too horrifying to speak aloud. Speaker Morden completed the thought for him. Then Earth potentially commands thousands of ships with capabilities far beyond anything we have encountered. Ambassador Silara accessed her trade databases. Our commercial intelligence suggests that humans have been expanding peacefully for over 30 years. They build civilian settlements, establish trade routes, and conduct scientific research. They have never shown aggressive intentions toward any galactic civilization. Until we attack them, Prince Vextar said quietly. The chamber erupted in panicked discussions as representatives tried to understand what humanity's military capabilities meant for the balance of galactic power. Several species began calculating how quickly they could establish diplomatic contact with Earth. Others discussed the possibility of forming defensive alliances. Speaker Morden called for order and addressed Prince Vextar directly. What are your recommendations regarding future contact with humanity? Prince Vextar looked around the chamber one final time before delivering his conclusion. Honored delegates, we must understand one crucial fact about what happened at New Perth. We attacked a human colony with overwhelming force, expecting easy victory. Instead, we faced 12 humans and a single scout ship who treated our entire fleet as a routine defensive exercise. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle over the assembly. We only fought a human scout unit. If this is what they consider standard defensive capability, then humanity represents the most dangerous military force in the galaxy. Our only rational option is to ensure that we never have to face their real army. The session continued for 6 more hours as the Galactic Council desperately tried to formulate policies for dealing with a species that could destroy them all while treating such destruction as a minor patrol duty. In the end, they reached a unanimous conclusion. Humanity would be approached with every possible diplomatic courtesy, offered favorable trade agreements, and treated with the respect due to the galaxy's new dominant military power. And every civilization would pray that the humans remained as peaceful as they claimed to be. Deep in the Outer Rim territories, Lieutenant Sarah Chen filed her routine patrol report and prepared Scout Unit 7 for their next assignment.